Okay, so today is, well, at least at the time of recording, November 19th, or what would have been the most recent release date for Cyberpunk, before it was delayed again. So, unfortunate for me, I'm currently at home on a scheduled holiday, which I scheduled far in advance, anticipating this release date. I also lost some paid time off in September, so I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least partially jaded over the multiple delays. That's just a disclaimer. But I'd also be lying if I said that my hype was completely unaffected and that I wasn't starting to worry at least a little bit for this game. Let me preface this video by saying that I actually agree with most of CDPR's reasoning concerning the delays, and not just the most recent, but all of them. And with the recent delay, they said things such as the biggest challenge for us right now is shipping the game on current gen, next gen, and PC at the same time. I apologize if this yellow text has triggered any sort of PTSD reaction from me, if you can see the glare in my glasses. And it is unfortunate, as a PC player to constantly hear stuff like this, but the market is pretty much console driven, so you're always going to have to expect things like that. They say they require preparing and testing of 9 versions. They say they're aware it might seem unrealistic when some say that 21 days can make any difference in such a massive and complex game, but obviously that really could. The amount of work that developers, especially as talented as these ones, can do in 21 days can't be understated. Then they go on and talk about going gold, and they say they feel they have an amazing game on their hands. So the glaring issue seems to be the finalization of the current editions for current consoles. CDPR has also stated in an earnings call with investors that they're very fixated on getting high review scores, particularly a Metacritic score, which is the aggregate. And if you look at history of the video games industry in general, the first impression reviewers provide is by far one of the most heavy indicators for post-launch sales. That's one of the biggest factors. The sentiment is one I'm sure many developers understand, and I can point to particular examples, with the glaring one in my mind being Obsidian's Fallout New Vegas. If you're unfamiliar with the history of that event, Obsidian, obviously contracted by the parent company Bethesda, part of the deal involved them only receiving royalties on that game if the game's aggregate score on Metacritic totaled 85 or higher, a number which they unfortunately missed by 1 point. So without going off on a tangent about how much I love New Vegas, I obviously think it deserves much higher than 85. It's my favorite Fallout game personally, much better than 3 and 4. Many of the negative scores the game received were also due to bugs, so if they had had more time to develop, these bugs likely wouldn't have been present, but they only had 18 months to develop the game. Released tons of post-launch patches that fixed much of this, as well as a very successful DLC. Track record for that game, every single one was pretty good and pretty well received. So with that anecdote in mind, one can see exactly why CDPR would be so concerned about the experience with Cyberpunk being perfect out of the gates. They don't exactly have a parent publisher or anything like that dangling the loss of royalties above their heads as a threat, but they do stand to miss out on tons of post-launch revenue and sales if the reviews aren't good and they don't live up to the standard that they've set for themselves. This is especially true considering that they're going to launch a multiplayer aspect of the game, which more than likely will probably get the GTA 5 treatment and be monetized. We'll see, though. That might not be the case. CDPR has never really done anything like that before. CDPR has given themselves a tall task of launching this game simultaneously on what seems like every single platform outside of the Switch, and they want that experience to be comparable across the board, which is respectable. So on the note of a former console generation, CDPR seems to be doubling down on their December 10th release date, with footage that they just released a couple days ago on the Xbox Series X and the Xbox One X. As names are kind of getting to be a bit much to keep up with, but CDPR, they have a solid social team, and I guess they really did hear about the concerns online that we hadn't seen any current generation gameplay. Most likely what we had seen up to this point was all PC gameplay or next-gen console. Granted, they used the Series X, which was the strongest of the current or the last generation, whichever way you look at it. And they moved kind of eerily slow, like when they were driving too, they just drove really slowly and trying to avoid any unnecessary frame dippage. But then they were inside and fighting, and it looked fine. It looked pretty good. So I don't think that should be a huge deal. But I do believe that, the basic PS4 and the basic Xbox One, we haven't seen that yet, so we'll see what that looks like. I do think people on those consoles will understand the level of quality that they're going to be sacrificing in order to play the game. So as ambitious and big as this game is, that kind of brings me to the overall point of the video. Even a game that seems like such an assured home run with so much passion and dedication poured into it, why do I believe that you should not pre-order it? Well, time and time again, CDPR has assured us that they're delaying the game because they truly, truly believe that they have something special in their hands, that it's going to be unlike any other experience, at least recently. And they don't want to be like Obsidian or any other developers that had crunch problems in the past and time problems and missed the recognition that their game deserves because of bugs and things that they could have fixed, especially within, an extra 21 days. So I believe their outlook on things is great, as dissatisfied as I am that I'm not enjoying my 4-day vacation playing Cyberpunk. If the game needs time, they gotta give it 21 days and give it time for the best possible release. So, unfortunately for the industry, most developers are not like CD Projekt Red, and they're not really deserving of your money, especially before they've delivered a product. So one glaring example, I'll be uploading a review likely on that sometime, or at least something covering it, but the most recent expansion for Destiny 2, I was kind of stoked about that, hearing about it, even with a lot of the changes that I wasn't excited about that we knew about beforehand. But they promised the world as far as content and making good on those promises to continue delivering and replacements for what they had been removing. But they take your money and they remove most of the game, and that is kind of the standard. Bungie used to be one of the most respected developers in the industry, and now they're not looking that good. The reviews on Beyond Light are kind of telling. So, developers will tout these games as the second coming of the new wave of gaming, but these games are often displayed in ways that are just not possible. And the game releases, and it's more of the same, or an average experience. It ends up being pretty forgettable. Publishers also push developers to adopt predatory practices, such as initiating different types of microtransactions and multiplayer experiences, offering pre-order bonuses for those who are willing to, take out their cash before they actually get a good product, based just on promises of a good product. And video game industry executives are not stupid. They know what they're doing when they make these decisions. They are able to read the statistics of pre-orders and understand what they need to do to get a certain amount of consumers to pay for their products before they have any indication of its quality. This trickles down to the developer, obviously, who end up being responsible for doing the bare minimum to achieve sales on their product. One of the worst offenders in this regard is the sports gaming industry. And I have friends now that do play these sports games, and at least if you're playing online, there's not really any way to have fun or compete with some of the best players without spending money. And so how do we respond to this? How do we as consumers answer this problem that is just developing and getting only worse in the gaming industry? Well, we can speak with our wallets. The previous giants like BioWare, Bethesda, Ubisoft, Bungie, they're not setting up to the quality that we'd previously set for them, so we shouldn't give them our money before they deliver what we would expect. It's as simple as not giving developers your money before you even know if a product is good. If I didn't feel so passionately about video games as an industry and a medium, I probably wouldn't care, but I do believe video games have tons to offer, and there's an experience there that's unparalleled as far as entertainment goes. And unfortunately, the standard is set for $60 video games, and it seems to even be going up now with things like Demon's Souls being $70 on the PS5. So I don't know about you guys, but $60 or $70 is a lot of money to me. That's a significant amount of cash that I would have to spend for a product that I would hope to get something out of. We as consumers do drive the direction of the markets. If we continue to pour our money into microtransactions and bare minimum content from developers, it's what we're going to continue to get. And if that's what they constitute as good and profit earning, they're not going to do any more. They're not going to reinvent the wheel. Gaming is going to continue to stagnate. And thankfully, we have industry saviors, at least from what it seems like CD Projekt Red, who are willing to go above and beyond to deliver a unique gaming experience that's worthy of remembering. So while they may deserve your money, others don't. And we got to show them that. Until they prove it, they can't take it. So as I write and film this video as well, more gameplay for Cyberpunk was released, and I have to say I'm getting a little bit more hyped. Even more promising than that, reviewers seem to be getting their hands on full copies of the game, which is a really good thing. They have great things to say, and obviously there's some problems, but that's to be expected. The game seems to be pretty good. This bodes well for the release date, so I don't think CD Projekt Red would risk missing out on that holiday season and the profits that come attached with it. That just might be suicide for the game as far as initial sales, but who knows? If they have to push it back again, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. And I have to say, if I was one of the people that pre-ordered this game initially, I probably would have canceled it by now. Just being honest, that's way too long to be praying for something or paying for a dream. So I constantly check for game news about the game like an addict. I can't help that. Um, and that would only be worse if I had already spent my money on it. So, I have a question for you guys if you're watching this. What do you think about pre-ordering video games? Do you think that it's a good and positive way to show support to the developers that are spending their time developing the game that you are hoping to play? Or are you kind of in the same boat as me where you think that it's something that we shouldn't do because it sets an unfortunate and unnecessary precedent for the industry, which ends up ultimately costing us quality when it comes to the products that were delivered in the end. Um, I would love to see what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you did watch all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I will be making other videos like this one. Not going to be Cyberpunk focused in general. I'll just be covering whatever gaming news that I think is relevant. So thank you for watching. If you liked, hit the subscribe button, like, and I'll see you guys next time.